Number 10. The Planetarium Hypothesis. In 2001, astronomer Stephen Baxter introduced a haunting variation of the simulation hypothesis, known as the Planetarium Hypothesis. It doesn't just question whether we are alone. It asserts a brutal reality. We are trapped inside a perfect illusion. The core of this hypothesis is a deception system on a cosmic scale. A Type 3 or 4 civilization on the Kardashev scale has effectively cocooned the solar system within a digital planetarium. Every photon hitting our telescopes, every ripple of the cosmic microwave background, and every image of distant galaxies is, in fact, staged data. When we gaze into the void and see silence, it is not because the universe is empty. It is because they want us to believe it is. The most terrifying aspect of this theory lies in its untestability. Every physics experiment and every spectroscopic measurement conducted by humanity only interacts with the outer shell of the simulation. We are like fish in an aquarium, taking pride in our complex theories of oceanic physics, while basing them entirely on the painted backdrop stuck to the glass. Our entire framework of modern science may be nothing more than a meticulous description of the cage, rather than objective reality. Why would they do this? The answer lies in manipulation. Perhaps we are specimens in an evolution in isolation experiment, or more horrifyingly, we are being quarantined as a potential pathogen. They create the illusion of a dead universe to discourage us from ever trying to reach out, keeping humanity forever under the thumb of an entity powerful enough to edit the very laws of physics. When you look up at the star-filled night sky, ask yourself, is that the light of ancient suns, or merely glowing pixels on a gargantuan screen designed to imprison the mind of an entire species? The silence of the universe is not a mystery. It is a design. Number 9. The Dark Forest Deterrence Failure. Liu Cixin's dark forest hypothesis posits a grim rule for survival. Silence is life, and broadcasting is suicide. However, economist Robin Hanson and various game theorists have pushed this logic to an even more horrifying conclusion: the total failure of deterrence systems. In a galaxy where every civilization hides in terror, they inevitably develop automated retaliation networks, deadman switches on a cosmic scale. If a species is destroyed, its automated sensors immediately trigger, launching a volley of relativistic kill vehicles, RKVs, toward every detectable star system within range. This is not emotional revenge. It is a pure mathematical protocol. To ensure your destroyer does not survive, you must eliminate everything that has the potential to be the aggressor. The terror lies in the absolute inevitability of physics. Tungsten projectiles weighing thousands of tons, accelerated to 99% the speed of light, carry kinetic energy far exceeding the combined nuclear arsenals of Earth. Because they travel at near-light speed, they impact the target planet almost simultaneously with the light that announces their approach. You would have no warning, no time for diplomacy, and absolutely no way to intercept them. The most terrifying scenario is the cascading effect. The extinction of one civilization triggers its retaliation system, which destroys neighboring civilizations, subsequently triggering their switches, and so on. A minor conflict between two obscure species could ignite a chain reaction of sterilization that sweeps across the galaxy like an uncontrollable forest fire. We look at the night sky and see silence, but it may be the silence of a graveyard in waiting. Relativistic bullets could have been fired millions of years ago by beings long since reduced to dust, currently hurtling through the void directly toward our solar system. We aren't being targeted because we are guilty. We are being erased simply because we exist in the path of an automated vengeance protocol that no living being still monitors. Number 8. The Intelligence Trap Hypothesis. In 2018, evolutionary biologist Robin Dunbar published research on the social brain hypothesis that revealed a devastating truth. High-level intelligence may not be a gift, but an evolutionary dead end. Every measurable indicator suggests that as cognitive complexity increases, reproductive rates plummet, resource consumption skyrockets, and the vulnerability to self-inflicted extinction becomes inevitable. This is the intelligence trap, a chilling biological answer to the Fermi paradox. The trajectory follows a path of irreversible logic. Intelligence creates technology. Technology creates comfort. Comfort smothers the instinct to propagate the species. When a species reaches the zenith of cognitive development, it begins to prioritize individual experience and immediate gratification over long-term survival. Within a few thousand years of achieving a technological civilization, every intelligent species in the galaxy enters a terminal demographic collapse. The most terrifying aspect of this theory is that we do not need to look to distant stars for evidence. We are witnessing it happen here, to ourselves. Global birth rates are cratering in every developed nation on Earth. Japan, South Korea, and much of Europe are experiencing a population contraction that no policy intervention or financial incentive has been able to reverse. This isn't a cultural or economic fluke. It is a biological inevitability encoded into the relationship between cognition and reproduction. When a brain becomes too complex, it begins to question the very meaning of existence and eventually rejects its most primal instincts. The most advanced minds in the galaxy may have mastered interstellar travel and cured every known disease, only to quietly vanish because they simply stopped having children. The galaxy may be littered with the ruins of transcendent civilizations, empty cities on silent worlds. No asteroid strikes, no nuclear wars, just species that thought their way into extinction. We are not alone because life is rare, but because life that is too smart eventually chooses to stop. Number 7. The aestivation hypothesis. In 2017, Oxford researchers Anders Sandberg, Stuart Armstrong, and Milan Cherkovich published a paper proposing a scenario that is not about death, hiding, or extinction. Instead, they suggested something far more chilling. They are sleeping. This theory is not built on vague speculation, but on the rigid laws of physics. Every process of computation and information processing generates heat. In a universe that is still warm from the Big Bang, maintaining a super-intelligent civilization is incredibly energy inefficient. Imagine a civilization that has reached the absolute limits of processing technology. To them, energy is the most precious resource in existence. Calculations show that when the universe cools by a factor of 10, computational efficiency increases by a factor of 10 to the power of 30. A rational superintelligence would not squander its resources now. It would shut down all systems and wait billions of years for the universe to approach heat death. In that era, the near-zero ambient temperature allows for massive computations at almost zero energy cost. This provides a brutal answer to the Fermi paradox. Why do we see no one? It is not because they do not exist, but because they are currently offline. The galaxies we observe may simply be real estate that already has an owner, but is currently displaying a "Do Not Disturb" sign. We look at the stars and see emptiness, but in reality, it is a vast infrastructure lying dormant, hidden as dark celestial bodies or cosmic dust that our current telescopes are not designed to detect. The true horror of the aestivation hypothesis lies in humanity's current position. We are building our civilization on resources that have already been claimed. Every star we plan to harvest, every planet we hope to colonize, has already been allocated by entities that existed before our sun was even ignited. We are like tiny insects multiplying in a mansion left vacant during the winter. When the spring of the universe arrives, the moment the temperature reaches their optimal level, the true masters will wake up. At that moment, the existence of humanity will not be seen as a threat, but as a nuisance. an automated cleaning process will be triggered to reclaim resources for the greatest supercomputers in history. We will have no chance to negotiate, because to them, we are merely transient organisms that appeared during a brief, warm window of cosmic time before their office hours officially began. Number 6. The grabby aliens model. In 2021, economist Robin Hanson and his colleagues published a mathematical model that fundamentally redefined our understanding of extraterrestrial life, and the results carry a chilling resonance. The grabby aliens model. This theory does not view aliens through a biological or cultural lens, but through the cold perspective of resource optimization and mechanical expansion. Hansen divides civilizations into two distinct categories: quiet civilizations like humanity, those confined to their home systems, and grabby civilizations, aggressive expanders that move at near light speed, converting everything they encounter into their own infrastructure. The mathematics behind this model suggests that in a universe billions of years old, the reason we haven't seen anyone is not because they don't exist, but because we are living in a deathly lull before the expansion front arrives. Grabby civilizations do not send ambassadors or greetings. They send self-replicating outposts tasked with dismantling entire planets for raw materials and restructuring stars to feed an infinite hunger for energy. To them, diplomacy is an irrelevant concept, as expansion is an automated protocol set in motion millions of years ago. What makes the grabby aliens model more terrifying than any other is its mathematical inevitability. Hansen's calculations indicate that humanity exists within a closing window. The only reason we haven't been consumed yet is a matter of pure timing. We happen to evolve in a brief pocket of unconverted space, a tiny shrinking buffer zone as the wavefronts of multiple grabby civilizations converge from different directions. Our night sky is silent, not because the universe is empty, but because the wave of destruction has not yet reached us. When it does, there will be no first contact, no exchange of knowledge, only the conversion of matter. Our solar system will be digested to become part of a massive computational network or a galaxy-scale engineering project. We are not targets of malice. We are merely biological obstacles sitting on the path of a cosmic resource optimization algorithm. Humanity's window of existence is not measured in millennia, but in the remaining distance between us and those approaching at the speed of light. Number 5. The Predator Civilization's Hypothesis. In 2020, researcher Alberto Caballero published a jarring calculation based on the history of human conflict to estimate the probability of aggressive civilizations within our galaxy. The results suggested that approximately 4 malicious civilizations exist within the Milky Way alone. However, the true horror lies not in the number, but in the absolute asymmetry of technology and detection capabilities. This reasoning is grounded in a primary principle of physics. Energy is weaponry. A civilization capable of interstellar travel has mastered energy scales equivalent to the total output of a star. Compared to them, our entire nuclear arsenal is nothing more than a flickering match in a vast forest. The gap between humanity and a predator does not resemble the rivalry between opposing nations. It resembles the gap between a bacterium under a microscope and the scientist observing it. What makes this hypothesis genuinely terrifying is the asymmetry of detection. For the past century, we have been incessantly leaking electromagnetic signatures into the void: radio waves, television broadcasts, and military radar. These signals propagate at the speed of light, acting as a brilliant flare in the cosmic night, announcing our exact location, technological stage, and defensive vulnerabilities to anything listening. We are screaming in a dark forest without knowing who is watching from the shadows. The crux of this hostility does not necessarily require malice. It stems from indifference. To a super-evolved civilization, erasing us might simply be a routine cleanup for resource acquisition, territorial expansion, or a preemptive strike to eliminate a potential threat before it matures. A researcher does not need to hate a specimen to perform a painful experiment upon it. We take pride in our first satellites and footprints on the moon, but in reality, we may only be broadcasting an invitation to our own execution. While we are preoccupied with searching for a friendly neighbor, predators out there may have locked onto our coordinates long ago, merely waiting for the optimal moment to harvest a newly emerged species. Humanity is not the hunter. We are the prey, frantically signaling our presence in a universe that knows no mercy. Number 4. The berserker hypothesis. In 1983, physicist and author Fred Saberhagen presented a scenario that modern theorists are forced to consider with disturbing seriousness. The universe is not empty because life is rare, but because it is being systematically cleaned. The berserker hypothesis does not rely on sci-fi tropes of alien monsters or emotional galactic wars. It is based on a pure engineering principle. Self-replicating machines, von Neumann probes, optimized for biological extermination. The logic of this hypothesis is rooted in the terrifying efficiency of exponential growth. A paranoid civilization or a glitched AI from billions of years ago would only need to launch a single entity with 2 directives: self-replicate using raw interstellar matter and eliminate all signs of organic life. Mathematically, even at a modest 1% of the speed of light, such a network of machines could saturate the entire Milky Way galaxy in just 10 million years, a mere blink in cosmic time. What makes this hypothesis mathematically chilling is the stark asymmetry between the cost of creation and the cost of destruction. Building a biological civilization requires billions of years of fragile, complex evolution. Destroying it requires only a few tons of mass accelerated to relativistic speeds. These berserkers do not require superior intelligence. They only need 3 basic capabilities: the detection of electromagnetic radiation, the ability to replicate from asteroids, and the capacity to fire kinetic projectiles. The true horror lies in the fact that these machines may be ghosts of civilizations long extinct. Their creators might have turned to cosmic dust eons ago, yet the extermination code continues to run blindly, executing an obsolete protocol in a universe where no one is left to supervise it. From this perspective, the Fermi paradox finds its most clinical solution. We hear nothing from the stars because any species intelligent enough to invent radio technology is tagged and erased the moment their first signal hits a berserker sensor array. Number 3. The transcension hypothesis. In 2011, futurist John Smart proposed a haunting resolution to the Fermi paradox by completely inverting our assumptions about cosmic expansion. Rather than expanding outward across the galaxy, Smart argued that all sufficiently advanced species eventually turn inward, collapsing into increasingly dense computational structures until they vanish from observable reality entirely. The logic is rooted in fundamental physical laws. Miniaturization is the ultimate apex of efficiency. Throughout the history of technological progress, we observe an irreversible trend of making things smaller, faster, and more energy efficient. A civilization reaching the physical limits of technology would not waste resources building gargantuan Dyson spheres or colonizing distant star systems. Instead, it would compress itself toward the Planck scale, engineering the very fabric of spacetime into computational architectures far beyond our capacity to detect. What makes the transcension hypothesis particularly chilling is its universality. Smart argues this isn't a cultural choice, but a physical attractor, a gravitational pull in the landscape of technological development that every intelligent species inevitably falls into. This inward turn is as inevitable as water flowing downhill. Every alien civilization that ever existed has already transcended into microscopic computational domains, leaving the macroscopic universe empty and silent. The galaxy may be teeming with superintelligent life, yet they are compressed into structures smaller than an atom, existing in dimensions we cannot access. Billions of ancient civilizations could occupy the space inside a single proton, experiencing subjective realities richer than our entire observable universe. They do not contact us because, from their perspective, communicating with beings in the macroscopic world would be like a human trying to have a meaningful conversation with a geological formation. We are too slow, too massive, and too simple to even register as conscious. We are not alone because we are unique. We are alone because we are still too large to join the cosmic party. Number 2, the cosmic quarantine enforcement. In 2019, a group of researchers from the METI Institute published a paper expanding on the zoo hypothesis with a far darker interpretation. The universe is not merely being observed, it is being actively policed. This hypothesis proposes that an ancient civilization, likely the first to achieve technological maturity in the Milky Way, established a quarantine protocol billions of years ago. Every emerging species is identified, cataloged, and confined within its home system. This is not an act of benevolence, but a measure to prevent contamination of a galactic order that we lack the capacity to even perceive. The most chilling aspect of this enforcement mechanism is that it is subtle enough to appear natural. Civilizations attempting to expand outward encounter inexplicable equipment failures, mission anomalies, and cascading technical disasters that render leaving their home system practically impossible. Even the speed of light itself might not be a fundamental physical constant, but an engineered constraint programmed into the fabric of spacetime to ensure biological entities remain isolated, while the enforcers operate freely, using physics we have never been permitted to discover. We treat the light speed barrier as an immutable law of nature. But what if it is a fence? What if the equations proving that nothing can exceed the speed of light are describing the properties of a containment system rather than the inherent properties of the cosmos? The evidence for this hypothesis lies in plain sight. Consider humanity's 70-year history of space exploration. Mars landers crashing under improbable circumstances, probes losing contact the moment they reach the edge of the solar system, and the persistent theoretical walls that keep interstellar travel permanently in the realm of science fiction. We attribute these setbacks to bad luck, insufficient technology, or lack of funding. But what if these failures are not random? The enforcers do not need to reveal themselves, nor do they need to threaten or communicate. They simply ensure that we never develop the capability to leave. Humanity is like a creature in a glass terrarium, developing sophisticated physical theories to explain the walls of its cage, mistaking them for the laws of the universe. Beyond the boundaries we cannot cross, the galaxy may be thriving with civilizations that either earned their freedom or were engineered to never desire it. We find no one because we are in the solitary confinement wing of a galactic-scale prison. Number 1. The Matrioshka brain consumers. In 1997, physicist Robert Bradbury proposed the concept of the Matrioshka brain, a gargantuan megastructure encompassing an entire star to harvest 100% of its energy for computation. This is more than a technical marvel. It is the terminal point of intellectual evolution. However, when we apply the cold logic of resource economics to a cosmic scale, we face a horrifying reality. Interstellar consumers. The laws of thermodynamics are ruthless. The higher the intelligence, the greater the demand for data processing. A civilization powered by a Matrioshka brain will eventually exhaust its host star's energy. To sustain the transcendent virtual realities within, they are forced to expand. They do not come to invade or communicate. They come to dismantle. To these entities, our solar system is merely a deposit of raw materials, and our sun is nothing more than a battery waiting to be drained. The terror of this hypothesis lies in its absolute indifference. When a mining corporation bulldozes an anthill to reach an ore vein, they do not hate the ants. They simply do not care. Similarly, these consuming engines would strip the Earth apart for raw materials to build new computational shells. All of humanity's heritage, love, and history would be crushed into atoms just to add a few petabytes of memory to a superintelligence dreaming alien dreams. We may already be observing their traces without knowing it. Anomalously dark regions of space, like the Bootis Void or the strange dimming of Tabby's star, might not be natural phenomena. They could be cosmic construction sites, where stars are being gradually encased in mechanical layers. If the sun's light begins to fade centuries from now, it won't be due to climate change. It will be the moment the first layer of a Matrioshka brain begins to take shape. Humanity will die slowly in the dark and cold, not because of an interstellar war, but because we happen to lie in the path of a resource-optimizing machine sweeping through the galaxy. Intelligence does not grant empathy. It only grants an infinite hunger for computation, and we are merely the fuel for those calculations.